Welcome to today's episode, What Happens When We Die? Do you ever wonder if heaven and hell is real? Or do we see God when we die? Or are we gone forever from time and space? Hi everyone, welcome back to the Aniverse, and my video series is Spirituality a Trap? Journeying with a Multidimensional Healer. Have you ever wondered why death is the most common inducer in an awakening journey? Death is a key element in truly understanding spirituality, and it is one of the most mysterious things that we have to face. And this mysterious thing carries many rituals in many different cultures that a lot of us blindly follow. But do we really know enough? I also think it's important to talk about death because so many people fear it due to the lack of understanding it. And as humans, some of us tend to ignore our mortality until we are actually faced with death. So let's try and bring more understanding to this. First, let's talk about the soul's relationship with death. And do we choose when we are going to die or not? Our relationship with death is karmic, as all souls are in a karmic cycle. Each life will have a variety of karmic actions that may or may not be carried out, creating the potential death or death points in a human life. In some lives, some may have one fixed death because that is how they chose their karma, and some may have two or more. However, the soul has decided everything before arriving on earth, even its choices. For example, an alcoholic who chooses the path of drinking rather than getting help dies at the age of 40. But at the same time, there is another path set out where he or she recovers, never touches alcohol again, and dies at 78. And finally, there's yet another path whereby the person could recover, start drinking again at 50, which would mean he or she would then die at 55. Karma essentially lays out these possibilities, and the soul chooses their death from the predestined choices based on the human's karmic decisions. So yes, the soul chooses its own death and simply just forgets as a human soul. So what exactly happens when we die? The first thing that matters is how you die. When I say how, I mean, was it sudden and shocking? Was someone on their deathbed aware that it was coming? Did someone or something kill them? Did an event lead them to suicide? And finally, how old were they? The reason I say this is because the soul will react upon dying with some level of shock, despite the fact that the soul has chosen this. A person who has had to come to terms with death more in life via old age, loss, or terminal illnesses will be less shocked over those that die suddenly. Those that suddenly die will have a little more resistance to the soul leaving than those who are more prepared for it. Once the soul crosses over, the soul first looks at his or her own physical body to understand what happened. The soul observes everything around its own body, the people around, or lack of in some instances, and the different reactions, emotions, and behaviors. Naturally, feelings of sadness, anger, and confusion will rise through the soul as well. Sometimes the soul may even attempt to re-enter the body. Please remember, the soul has only moved from the third dimension into a lower realm in the fourth dimension, essentially just over the veil, not far from us at all. The person is still the same person, even on the other side, and the soul is still a human soul. The mind and the consciousness has just left the body, and we have become immortal, energetic versions of ourselves. But the soul is also readjusting to being a body of energy again. A body that doesn't require food, water, or air to survive anymore. A body stripped from all its physical privileges, but also free from pain, suffering, and physical responsibilities. As the soul is processing its death, it usually follows its own body for a while, watching those that were left behind. At times, sending messages and comfort their way, sometimes even waiting for some sort of justice, change, or just the grieving rituals to take place. Usually at this time, the soul also meets friends and family members that have already passed away, bringing a smile to their face, comfort, and more understanding of this new realm. Some souls will see them straight away and be received by them, and some will see them soon after. Some souls are also very attached to the life they just left, not wanting to let go of who they were, still concerned about finishing what they started in that life, and looking after their loved ones. Of course, everyone is different, and this will look and be different for all individuals. So, during this time of transition in the fourth dimension, a lot of souls generally spend time between checking on their family here on Earth, spending time with their family and friends in the fourth dimension, exploring the realms, and enjoying the freedom of being energy bodies free from earthly responsibilities. Some take on roles like guides, being positive spirits, and some may even have certain tasks they wish to carry out, with the most common one being waiting for their own loved ones to come and join them. Free will always exists, and the souls can spend as much time in this transition as they want. But eventually, most souls ascend to the fifth dimension, as that is our natural state of being. The state of bliss and unconditional love, and yes, we are all fifth dimensional beings in our natural state. Because time has ceased to exist at this point, this journey from the fourth to the fifth can actually take a lot of time. Usually many years, but for many different reasons. In this transition journey, most souls will do their thing, have some fun, and then ascend into the fifth dimension. But this path isn't the same for every single soul. In fact, every soul's journey is unique. This journey the soul embarks on is also more crucial than we think, because the soul is not yet free from the duality of light and dark, or its ego yet. But it is free from time, space, and from receiving karma. The fourth dimension is actually very similar to Earth, where both evil and pure love and light simultaneously exist. And even though you're free from receiving karma, you're not free from creating it. A lot of souls do not realize this and end up creating more karma from the fourth dimension. Unfortunately, some souls get consumed by revenge, attachment, leftover business, karma, control, and anger. These souls often create negative contracts with other low vibrational souls, and like humans, get slightly consumed by the dark. Some souls just can't let go of their identity, their ego, and what happened to them, so end up being earthbound souls or just trapped and lost souls. A fair few souls can't leave their place of death, and therefore can cause interference on Earth, such as haunting spirits. On the other hand, some enjoy the fact that they can roam Earth, pain-free, responsibility-free, have all the time in the world, and can annoy those on Earth if they want to. Some souls are simply more attached and want to observe their family and friends, as well as send out messages. But the observers who start to get controlling and have a need to influence are what I call the negative ancestors. Imagine the lens that souls have the potential to go through when they are no longer physical, but want some sort of action in the physical, even the smallest. All of these souls can still get help, and with time will ascend, but there will still be exceptions. Some souls deteriorate further into darkness, becoming entities, and depending on what they choose, all kinds of negative beings. The souls that stay stuck in the fourth dimension co-create with entities and create contracts with darker and darker beings such as demons. Technically, staying in the fourth dimension forever will never get you to source, but it also means you will never return to Earth. So it is possible that some souls turn dark because they do not want to reincarnate again, as free will does exist. In a worst-case scenario, some souls will destroy themselves and cease to exist completely. This is when a soul goes so much into the dark that they start having to split themselves to continue making demonic deals and to achieve certain negative goals, and eventually splitting so much that they are no longer souls with any life force, but negative fragments of energy. Please don't get me wrong, as the fourth dimension is also full of light and has its own beauties, and the path to the fifth dimension doesn't have to be negative, and usually isn't, but it all depends on the soul's choices and interactions. I have seen my own uncle in his transition playing cards with his friends and just having a great time. The soul's journey from the fourth to the fifth is essentially the shedding and letting go of everything physical and earthly. What if I told you that the true test of detachment isn't for Earth? It is for this reason. It is to allow you to understand and carry out your journey to the fifth dimension as smoothly as possible. The real test is when you are no longer you and you no longer have a physical body. What do you do then? How do you cope then? Can you leave it all behind? Maybe that is the sole reason of the journey from the fourth to the fifth, to test the detachment practiced on earth. Once you do complete this next journey and reach the fifth dimension, you become the full soul again, a bigger version of you. You are now a soul that has lived all your lives, and you're not attached to the identity of the life you just lived. The fifth dimension is truly where the ego actually dies and where the collective consciousness lies. Have you ever wondered why mediums say that they cannot guarantee that a past loved one will always appear? This is why. Some just move on and can move on really fast. Yes, even in the fifth dimension, they are aware of who they just were, and if there are responsibilities tied to who they were, such as passing on a message, they will definitely carry out this responsibility. So what does happen once you're in the fifth dimension? Once you're in the fifth dimension, you enjoy the fact that you're back home and you're back to your soul self of unconditional love. You now can take as much time as you want before you choose your next life, wherever that may be. You understand your karma, you decide your lessons, you create more contracts, you travel, you meet who you need to, and you can become a spirit guide or a positive spirit of encouragement. Once you get home, there is really no rush to leave, and a lot of souls take a long time before deciding to leave home and come back. Souls are usually born into karmic families and have to wait for everyone to return to the fifth dimension so they can reincarnate together. One of the main questions out there is, why do we come back to Earth, to the place of suffering and pain? Why leave the place of unconditional love and bliss for this? Now let's take a look at this with another perspective. As long as karma exists, which means desires exist, no matter how much pain and suffering you went through, and even may choose to put yourself through, you will still crave coming back. You will miss the feeling of a body and of being touched. You will miss the smell and taste of food. You will miss being loved and sex. You will miss feeling air going through your hair or jumping into a body of water. A soul will always crave being physical until it has finished its karmic cycle, because its ultimate goal is to move to the next dimension. That's the system we are born in, and that is the system we will stay in. And there is really no escaping it. Even when the gods came down to experience Earth in human form, they had to live out their karma and go through death to return. The death and rebirth cycle only stops when we are finally able to reach enlightenment and ascend to the sixth dimension, leaving the karmic cycle and desires behind for good. The most known ascended masters are Jesus Christ and the Buddha, who made it to enlightenment and are now free from the karmic cycle, and are sixth-dimensional beings. A soul cannot be enlightened and have a body at the same time, as their consciousness just got an upgrade. Therefore, no one can ever reach complete enlightenment on Earth, but perhaps can come close to it, which is how and why Jesus Christ and Buddha made such an impact before leaving, because they were on their last life. And of course, more on this in my video series. So, what are the traps within this? When it comes to death, there is such a huge amalgamation of beliefs, yet so much uncertainty that it is hard to lay out all of the traps, because they spread from the spiritual world into the religious world, into the cultural world, and into the agnostic and atheist world. However, we can now be aware that heaven and hell doesn't exist, and that religion uses death to instill a lot of fear in people. Humans simply have the tendency to create a lot of chaos around things that are unknown, including the rituals and rules around death and birth. This is simply derived from the fear of the unknown. Reincarnation is not a soul entrapment, but a necessary part of karma. And finally, people selling you anything to do with ascension are selling you something that is already yours. Ascension is merely tapping into your own fifth dimensional state, and all of us have the potential to do it. Yes, it can take a few lives and devotion or meditation practices to get there or to even recognize it. But we can all ascend into the fourth and fifth dimension via a temporary mental state. Physically, no one can ascend, and there are no ascended masters here on Earth. But the most significant trap that I think needs to be addressed is the detachment trap. Think of this. Our bodies is the first attachment that we create as souls, and our bodies is the space from which all other desires are created. Our bodies are essentially the root problem of all materialistic desires. For example, our bodies are designed to eat and taste, so it will desire food, and in today's world of choices, it will desire specific food and good tasting food. This is what I meant by respecting our evolution from my first episode. Our world is just not the same, even as our parents or elder siblings. Every day there are more and more choices and rights for us as humans. Therefore, every day our desires have the potential to grow. So instead of learning and teaching detachment from a perspective of gratitude and limited desire, how about a new way that fits the world today? How about learning the whole essence of detachment is purely for death? And if we can practice that here, we will have a wonderful transition journey. If a human can understand this detachment the right way, it will reflect on their day-to-day life. And essentially, as long as they're a good person and are not harming anyone, does it really matter what they desire? This detachment is actually a strong form of self-love. Treat your vessel that has chosen to carry your soul with so much respect and love. Fulfill your karmic desires, but never forget it is a vessel. It is a vessel that will end, but you will always exist. So remember, death is just a transition, but it is one of the many transitions of our wonderful soul's life. Let's understand it. Let's embrace it. Let us live life with one less fear, and let us truly open ourselves in our spiritual journeys. But don't try and understand this until it drives you mad. Understand it only until you have found peace with it. Everyone lives in God's system. Everyone will die one day, and everyone will face this journey. No one is alone. And in the meantime, chase your dreams and have all the desires you want, as we are all special and we all deserve what makes us happy. Please don't forget to question, share, comment, and of course, like and subscribe. See you next time on the Aniverse. Bye! Thank you so much, everyone. I really hoped you enjoyed that. And if you missed last week's episode, please don't forget to check it out. The link will be somewhere up here or up here. And please don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to be notified for my next video. Take care. Bye.